and Strauss, and they do all that kind of stuff.
Today I don't feel like doing anything. I just wanna lay in my bed. Don't feel like picking up my phone, so leave a message at the tone. 'Cause today I swear I'm not doing anything.
Gentle loving hugs, and thanks for turning in to the Fibro Friends radio show here on healthinforadio.com, part of the Entertainment Global Media Network, broadcasting out of heavenly Clearwater, Florida. If you feel like doing nothing at all today, then just sit back or lie down. We're here to educate you with a full spectrum of information on fibro, advocate on the behalf of all fibro friends for fibro awareness and the need for more research, and support each other with laughter and love. New to fibro? Wonder what it is? Fibromyalgia is a complex chronic disorder involving a malfunction in how the brain processes pain, which leads to other multiple dysfunctions in the body. Some of the main symptoms of fibro are pain and fatigue, sleep disorder, memory and concentration, depression, digestive disorders, hypersensitivity. So today, you've tuned into Fibro Friends. So please welcome your host, Laura Rosa.
Hi, and welcome to Fibro Friends here. I'm Laura Rosa, your host for this evening. And we have a guest on our show appearing via phone, Michael Miller. Are you there, Michael?
Yes, this is Michael.
Hi, welcome to our show. I'm so glad you could join us.
Thanks. I wanted to call because I had a experience today which, involves fibro and, maybe it can help other people.
That's what we hope. Share your story.
Right. So my doctor wanted me to get a stress test because I'm at a certain age and have a family history, so I went to go get the stress test. Well, I started doing, the things you needed, which was they did the EKG setup, which was all the stickers, that were going to be on me, and then I got onto the treadmill. But I couldn't reach the target heart rate because my legs just were burning so bad from, walking for 4 or 5 minutes.
You're going to be sore.
At a quick pace. Yeah, so it was very painful. And then when I was talking to my wife about it, she was like, well, with fibro, you can't expect yourself to be able to do everything that you may have done before or that they're asking for.
Right.
And it really set off a light in my head to say, geez, when you have fibro and you have a new experience, especially a medical one, if you don't bring someone with you that maybe can say, hey, this is too much, or hey, he's saying he's too tired, that might actually be good. That would be a support person.
I think that is an excellent point.
Yeah, and it's the other, I think, good thing about if I brought someone with me is that I was tired and sweating like a pig after that 4 or 5 minutes, and it would have, I was really winded, so I was just, thinking, man, I should have someone else there, even just to drive home or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
But with fibro, you have to think about it, and I was disappointed, thinking, geez, as a guy, I'm like, well, why couldn't I, get my heart rate up or walk fast enough that they wanted? And I'm relatively young.
Yes, you
are. So
it
can be frustrating, some of these tests, and I hope that they're going to be able to get the data that they needed, because I don't want to do it again.
You know what? And I think, explaining that to your physician, that it taxed you crossed over to a point of, sounds like significant fibro pain. And
yeah, I had to stop immediately, yeah.
Right. And normally when we do that, we tend to put us on our backs for a little while afterwards when we overexert. Yeah. And I really hope you don't experience that tomorrow but you're now at risk for having yourselves knocked out for a few days and on your back trying to heal from a doctor not understanding. Because I'm sure if you filled out your forms, if it was your first time seeing him or not, he read your intake. He had to know you had fibromyalgia.
Right. And I don't know when they set up the protocols for the test to say, hey, this guy's going to have a problem. Obviously, there was nothing in my file that the nurse practitioner, whoever did this test, for me, was. But, geez, like I said, I'd be real disappointed if I have to do it again. But
no, I don't think you will have to do it again.
You got to prepare.
Yes, because you know what? I think a doctor that would put you under that much strenuous stress with your condition does not understand fibromyalgia and what he's doing to you. So, and you may have the same situation. Every time I see a specialist, I generally and politely say, how familiar are you with fibromyalgia? And my response I get 90% of the time is, oh, that's not my specialty. But as you and I know, fibromyalgia affects all parts of our body. So every specialty really needs to have an understanding about what it is.
Right.
That is
And,
my
and that comes into
frustration.
play because as you're walking faster on this treadmill, they're trying to, coach you. They're like, come on, keep on going faster,
Oh
harder,
my gosh.
and that doesn't cut it. I mean,
No,
I
you
was,
don't need a
I couldn't argue with
cheerleading
her
crowd.
because I was breathing so hard. And yet that's not going to help. That's not helpful to me. Maybe I could have educated her if I had just said, hey, listen, this is what fibromyalgia is in this setting. You know what I
Right.
mean? And maybe it'll be better for the next person, or
Yes, and
it'll be
that is the point of this radio show, is to share the knowledge that we've learned through experience or through others, so that maybe somebody else can avoid it or get better quicker or try something new. Um,
right.
and you're the first gentleman that I've had on the show as a guest, and I'm really excited to have a man's perspective on fibromyalgia. And also, I know you're on a little bit different regimen for medications, which I would think would be a really interesting topic to go over as well. Are you up for that?
Sure.
Great. I appreciate that. Um, if you want to give us a little bit of background or whatever you're comfortable sharing about, you know, um, how you were diagnosed, how long, how has it affected your family and your work, and what changed for
Right.
you
Right.
as a man, that would
Right.
be a good
Well,
start.
yeah, when I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia about 3 years ago, it didn't immediately do anything for me. Like I felt a wave of relief. I didn't get any answers. I just got a pamphlet with the Fibro Network, tender points on it,
Right.
and I didn't know what that was going to do for me. And subsequent appointments with specialists, they explained to me, but the diagnosis thing, it wasn't rough. It was, well, what does this mean?
Right.
And I probably just didn't listen well enough to the doctor. I heard the word and it was handed the pamphlet and just didn't swallow it all. But
Right.
when I then went and looked on the computer, this was they would have commercials or ads, and it would be with women, and
course.
they would still say there was a male component to the to fibromyalgia, but that they don't know how it's linked. If one sex has it less maybe diagnosed than the other, maybe men don't get diagnosed with it and it's something else.
That's part
I
of it.
certainly
Yeah,
went through
it's true.
my share of different blood tests and all that type of stuff. And I did have to change medicines a couple times. And I've had real lucky success with what you call, quote unquote, medical marijuana.
That's
This
that's
is
right.
a THC, which is the active ingredient from marijuana, that gets, I guess, artificially made, but it's something that has been around for a long time.
Did you
They
say
give it to you in the exact pill
PhD?
form.
What were the initials?
I think it's a
You said PhD?
THC. Yeah, that's the active.
PhD. Okay.
I don't know if the word is intoxicating, but that's the
So
the
they
component of marijuana that makes
synthetically
people
make that into a pill form then.
right. And what
Okay.
that does is they don't want, but nobody wants anyone to get lung cancer. No one wants anyone to smoke cigarettes. Same thing with if you were to smoke marijuana, you would still have that tar, and you'd have other
Sure.
people that had breathing problems may not be able to get the right dose that they need.
What if they just baked it in
And-
the brownies?
Right, sure. Yeah, well, when you ingest, I guess, marijuana, from what I've researched, the effects of it last longer.
Really?
And so that's the same premise as when I take a pill. It will, I take it twice a day, and over the first couple of weeks, I think everything levelizes out in your system. And for me, it's an excellent pain reliever.
Really?
But the side effects have really
Let's hear about the side effects.
been rough.
What are the side effects?
Specifically, my memory, short term, is affected. I kind of get frustrated over it, but the benefit of having less pain far outweighs the memory component.
Right.
And in my family, I'm lucky to have a support system.
Yes.
My wife, my 2 kids, they understand, and they can laugh at me forgetting where I park the car every time. They can laugh when I say, "What were we just talking about?" or "Well, where were we headed to in the car?" So
you at least have the excuse of medical marijuana. I don't have an excuse except for fibro fog. So I'm sorry to interrupt you.
It's something that my insurance company had a problem with, and the doctor had to convince them it was necessary. It's usually a product that is given to people who are going through chemotherapy and stuff, so that it will allow them to eat more. They'll feel less nauseous, or you wouldn't be able to become, nauseous. And that is another, helpful side effect, because it settles your stomach, having taken this medical marijuana, which I think the brand name is called Sesamet, and the chemical name is Nabalone. But it is expensive, but for me it works, and for others they may want to look into it, especially for the pain component.
So
there may be other reasons too.
Does it kind of, now, I don't have a lot of experience with pot smoking in general, and I'm not going to ask you that question because it's not important. But so I know that you're supposed to get, quote, the munchies when you smoke pot. Does the medical marijuana create those same kind of cravings as if you were smoking it, like rolling a joint?
I don't have a hunger sensation, or like I'm ravaged, hungry. I don't know that that's listed. It might be listed as a side effect, but that doesn't happen to me. And I think the reason why is because when it provides pain relief, you can then do more. You have a lot of times a better attitude, and it helps you to become maybe more motivated and to do things, and less about maybe if your comfort is eating food, that's what you consider something you like to do. Well, for me, I like to read magazines, and I like to try to walk. So I can do those things with the medication. And in my case, the side effects is just memory. It's not the eating, but there could be, I suppose, different things for different people. But for me, it's worth it.
That's true. That with fibromyalgia, we all respond differently. So it's not, one pill cannot fix all of us, sadly. So when you say pain relief, on a scale of 1 to 10, let's say before you had it, what I'm trying to see if you can put a number out there to show the significance. I think what you're trying
to get to. I used to work, and that was up until a year ago when things got too bad symptom-wise, with me missing work and having poor performance. But during the time frame that I was taking it, it would allow me to make it through the day, even though when I got home I'd still be at an 8 or 9, and I would just sob and cry sometimes in my wife's lap because the pain was so great. This eliminated that, and it was I now have a manageable amount or a pain, or I have less, so I'm very grateful.
Do you
and
think
maybe sometime down the road there'll be something different. I know that pain is good in the sense that it tells you if there's a problem, but most of our pain having fibro is not real. It's just exaggerated in your brain, or it's overprocessed.
Right. So would you
I don't expect complete relief.
You get your pain down to like a 3. I always think of a 3 as something I can manage and focus.
Yeah, I say I have 80% pain relief from it.
Wow.
Before I used to have about 50%, and now I'm up to about 80. That really made a big jump.
Is it because of, did they up your dose to get a higher?
No. I started on the same dose that I'm on now. I guess it's not something that you become used to.
Okay. What gave you 50%?
Pardon me?
You said that you used to have 50% relief. Was that before the medical marijuana, and it was some other fibromyalgia drug?
Well, yeah, that it's funny. That's exactly what happened. Is I was using a drug called Savella, which is a
that's approved
SNRI.
Right.
And it acts a little bit different, I think, than Cymbalta, which is what most people think of.
Right.
And see, this is what fibromyalgia is. I forget completely what I'm talking about.
You were talking about that Savella gave you like a 50% pain relief where...
Oh, right, yeah. So I was taking Savella, and my doctor was, diligent in ordering blood tests,
Right.
after I tried different medications. And I had some adverse reactions to Savella, which was a very good pain reliever, which I had used for maybe a year. And I had probably 80 to 90% pain reduction with it. I love Savella, but it didn't like me. I ended up having liver problems and some other blood work problems. Once I got off of the Savella, the blood readings were better, but I was in a lot more pain.
Right.
And the answer was, hey, try this pain medicine, the medical marijuana, in that sense, and it worked out quite well. So sometimes with a medication not working for you, then something new gets introduced. And for me, right from that point, within a day or two, I felt so much better.
Wow.
I had just less pain, and
That's
less pain
amazing.
is a good thing.
So how often is it something you take throughout the day?
I take it twice a day.
Okay.
And I take it in the morning, and I take it in the evening, so that it's about 12 hours apart. And I normally take it with other medications that I eat a small amount of food with.
Right.
And I've never, felt an upset stomach, or the pill's not so large that it gets stuck in my throat, which, is true with some things like calcium or multivitamins. Those are hard to choke down no matter how much water you drink.
I agree. Yes.
And then there has been problems, especially at the beginning of this year, and I think maybe the beginning of next year, last year, because there's always the contracts that the pharmacies go through with the drug manufacturers.
Right.
So I had trouble in January and February getting the quantity that I need for 90 days, which is 180 pills. I had to settle for 120 once. I had to settle for 150 another time. Still had to pay my 3 months copay, but at least I got something.
Now,
so it's been difficult trying to make sure I have enough that are going to cover me until I get my prescription refilled, through the mail order, because local pharmacies, I guess, don't have that big of a demand for it.
Interesting.
So you may be able to get it at a hospital or something, or where somebody for cancer or something is, commonly getting treatment or followed, with their doctor. And so in my case, it's a little different because they don't really know what it's used for, because they don't have a lot of prescriptions written for it.
I'd like to put a little plug in here. I use Tampa Family Pharmacy, and they know when my prescriptions are coming up. They call me, and if they have a patient that uses it, they will have it in stock for you before it's your turn to get it renewed, and they bring it to your home. They do not charge a delivery fee. If you're getting it a specific price that, let's say, I think Sam's Club, who's one of the less expensive pharmacies, they price match. So it's a win-win-win everywhere, except the personal service I get surpasses any pharmacy I've ever used, because they'll talk to me, they come to your door, and if you don't want to get out of bed, they'll just leave it on your door, if you don't want to have any communication. I've not had any problems with some of my less frequent or, highly used medications that are a bit more rare that they run out of. They're very customer oriented. So that's my plug for pharmacy.
Well, actually, I use a mail order pharmacy for the same reason, because they seem to work with me better. But with myself, I actually prefer to do the mail order drugs, because I'm not always in a good mood, and I don't always want to go out and smile at the person who's giving me the prescriptions, or is telling me I have to wait 10 more minutes, or, we were calling to say the other pharmacy down the street is going to fill it for you.
Yep.
So I really like being able to call, like my insurance company, which does the 3-month one. Therefore, I can get a little bit testy with them if I need to. I can apply a little bit more force if it's, hey, I need this now. You need to send it overnight mail. And face-to-face with people, that often doesn't work so well, and they don't understand anything more than, I'm filling the prescription for this guy. They don't look at it as, hey, this guy probably is not happy standing there. He's probably in pain, he's fatigued, and he is irritated.
That's right.
When it's over the phone, they don't see that. They may hear it from my words, and I've had I think, successful, with that, because you have to be aggressive, a lot of times with medications. And at the face-to-face level, I don't do so well. But when it's over the phone, it's easier for me. I can call when I'm in a better mood. I
Right.
can, put that time aside. I can sit down while I'm talking on the phone. I don't have to stand there and talk to somebody.
I agree.
Also, with all the
I
privacy stuff, I can call from my home and talk to somebody without worrying about anybody knowing anything about what I'm ordering
It's
versus
standing
picking up
behind
things
you
in
in
the
line. Yes,
privacy. Yeah,
exactly.
and it's not always private. Even though
Yeah.
they try to keep people away from each other.
I know what you mean, but everybody can pretty much catch on what's going on up there. But these ladies, it's two females. You just sometimes I
Well,
just
that sounds like
fax it
something
to
to look
them.
into for me because I would rather to get my stuff filled quicker than having to call and bug people to send it to me.
Right.
So
Well,
that
you
might work
found
out
something
well. And
that
if they,
works, and I would stick with that. But if ever, I just want to let people know these gals are out there, and they service, the Tampa Bay area, and
yeah,
they just bend over backwards. If something doesn't go
yeah,
through, they'll find a secondary one that'll work. I've just never
right.
had the
Well,
care like I've gotten with them.
I might be able to give a good example about. Do they do compounding at that?
Yes, they do.
At that farm, they do. Yeah.
Yes.
See, I take another prescription, which I think is not used by many people that have fibromyalgia, but it's been very successful.
What's that?
It's a medication that is compounded, meaning they have to mix it with. I think it's lactose, which is what that's what they use for a binder or something to make like a pill, a capsule. Well, I take a medication that's called naltrexone. Naltrexone at 50 milligrams is normally the starting point for people who are trying to get off heroin and people who
Low
are
dose
like, I guess,
naltrexone.
chronic alcoholics.
Uh-huh.
This medicine attaches to the opioid receptors in your brain
Right.
like a drug would, or like, I guess, with the alcohol, the effect of it. So what it does is it fills up all those little, connections, in your brain that would respond to, an illegal drug or something like that, and it makes it so that there's no benefit. I take it at 1/10 strength, and what it does is it actually binds to those receptors, which have those receptors, part of their role is pain. So it makes them less active, I guess. It attaches to those receptors, and it gives you less pain, over time because your body will, achieve a balance. So that has to be compounded. So if I only take one a day, so that would be 30 days worth of 1/10 of a pill.
Right.
Because if somebody took it for some other use, they would be using, I use 1/10. They'd be using 10 times more in a month than I was. So
Right.
I don't know whether I should pay the same copay that someone else would pay
That's
for
a
the
whole
larger
nother
amount,
story.
or if I should get less,
Well, so you're
But
saying
that's
you're
something
also
a pharmacy
taking
like that could work with me on, because it may be cheaper to do out of insurance, because literally I would only need to buy 2 50-milligram pills
right.
to have them, diced up and chopped into 30 equal parts. And
Yes. And
it's,
these kind
I'm certain it should be inexpensive,
yeah, Tampa Family Pharmacy would get the rationale behind that. And if they have to
Right.
buy, they're not. But other places will say, "Oh, I can change." Just knock the price off a little bit. They don't know, But there's like
Right. Well, the
3
problem,
major pharmacies around our area that do compounding. But I think
sure.
theirs are the best because they are the
Right.
best.
Now, I have a pharmacy that I get that filled out and compounded, because it's, like I said, it's not something that's always on the shelves, and like I said, it has to be cut. And I think it's a controlled substance, maybe too. So
It
you
may
may have to sign for something, and I wonder how that's accomplished with that pharmacy you're recommending.
They handle all the controlled substances very well, and basically, I call them up, tell them what I have, and I leave the script taped to the door. They take the script, they leave my little bag, and then she'll call me on a cell phone and leave me a voicemail saying I just dropped it off. Because some days I just don't want to get up and talk to anybody either. So, and
Right.
It's after 5 o'clock, but I can call it in the day and they'll bring it that night. So, they have saved me hours and hours of waiting through drive-through, and I used to get pretty reduced rates at Walgreens, and so they matched all my compounding, all their prices, and I get other items like over-the-counter items like I I go through Miralax. Well,
Mhm.
they're Miralax. It's over the counter medication that you take for um
It's a laxative or
yeah,
like a fiber
like
supplement, but
right,
it's
right,
not
right.
fiber.
They're $4 a bottle cheaper, and I was like, and you're delivering it to me. So even I needed to get wrist splints. They gave me just over their cost. She might marked it up like a buck, and these are I know what I used to pay. One doctor
Mm.
charged me $40 for one, and I paid $10 for one that is better quality. So they're just
Yeah, I
good
guess
people.
if you look on, yeah, if you ask somebody what they use, in this case, your pharmacy, then that may help some. But what I would be interested in knowing was, I have a very difficult time keeping up with my prescriptions. If it's going to be mail order, I know it might be
Right.
2 weeks,
And
but
so do
I
I.
know they're going to have whatever the drug is.
They
If
call
I
me
go
and
to get it
say,
locally,
this is what you're due to get A, B, C, D, and E.
yeah,
And I go, oh, thank you. I appreciate that because I have a very large list. And so they keep, and I feel like I'm doing a commercial for them, but I just want people to understand how much burden they've taken off me by them
right,
knowing when my medication's due to be filled. And they work directly with my doctors, calling them, leaving me out of the middle of it. And they just make it
right,
happen because she understands my homebound situation. And they're just two very sweet, kind ladies that are both pharmacists that are doing this. And I have never gotten service like this. And it's the
right.
cheapest way. Again, it's Tampa Family Pharmacy for those of you out there who are trying to figure out what I said their name was. And it's Crystal and Haley. We should be calling him Doctor, but that's how it is. But let's bring it back around here. So you were using the low dose naltrexone, which I've read a
Right.
lot of positive things on websites that people are getting relief from, and you're using the medical marijuana, and you were using the medical marijuana and you just added the low dose naltrexone. Is that how it worked out for you?
It was a second thing that I took. The naltrexone was an add-on, thing. But I think it's been about 8 months or so that I've been taking it, and
And what was the purpose of
it
adding that one to your regimen of medication?
it
Just
was another approach at handling pain, because in the
okay,
past I had really good luck with opiates as far as pain relief.
right,
When I had like some outpatient surgery, I couldn't believe how great I felt that day and the next day. But it was from Vicodin or some other opiate that
right.
they gave me that was very powerful. I never put two and two together and said, geez, that seems to help my fibro pain. I was looking at it more as, geez, I got my gallbladder out and I got a couple, stitched
Yeah,
areas in my stomach, which hurt, and I didn't really feel the fibro pain. And then, when I was talking about it with my doctor, well, if you can't take opiates, in my case, I get constipated very easily, and I have
yes,
had to be hospitalized before. So
yes.
this was
I
something that
recall.
was the opposite, because again, it's a opiate receptors that this drug goes and satisfies in your brain. So
I
it's like
see.
you're taking a medication, but it's really opposite that. It's filling up these locations in your mind,
It's
these
triggering
little
our brain.
receptors, and that way you don't feel as much pain.
Are you familiar? Do you know anything about Suboxone?
Can you say that again?
Are you familiar or have you heard of Suboxone?
With an F?
S as in Sam, SUB as in boy, Suboxone.
No.
Okay. Um, just I don't want to go down that alley. I have a little knowledge. Just gonna see if because I think it reminds me of Suboxone. They use it to trick your brain, but maybe that'll be next week's show because I'm actually going off my opiates tomorrow, and they're
Mm.
using Suboxone to do that, and I'm not quite up to speed on how it's all going to happen. but
Right.
it's just time. I need to get off of it and give my body a break from them. And I don't
Right.
think they're working
I was
anymore.
taking a medication which was very effective at allowing me to sleep, but there were side effects from it as far as I would then
Do you
sleepwalk, or
mind
the medication
sharing
would make me.
some of your
Uh-huh.
stories? If you do, I understand. Like your vacation stories.
Yeah,
That
in
I
my
mean,
case
that was
with poor
so
sleep,
funny.
if I go away someplace to visit relatives or someone else, I just can't go alone. I need
Because
somebody to kind of
now,
watch me. In my case,
and this is because your sleep
because I have
medication,
narcolepsy and other sleep problems, I
right?
sleepwalk. And
You have,
if I'm in a different area than my home, I could get lost.
so you
I
wake
could
up,
get hurt or hurt somebody else. Yeah.
right? Now, is it the sleep medication that causes you to do some of the things that you shared with me in the past, or is it your narcolepsy that you and your sleepwalking?
I think it's the sleep component of my brain that just doesn't allow that restorative sleep to happen.
Right.
The medications that I've taken, which are pretty strong,
Right.
with the intent, of making me go to sleep, they're very effective. They work,
Yeah.
but they work to the degree where then the I guess different brain waves, delta wave intrusion, I guess is what it's called, when you then start to have the ability to move while you're asleep instead of being paralyzed.
Right.
So you don't act out,
Your
a
dreams.
vicious, attack in your dream on your, if your partner is, laying next to you in bed.
Right.
In my case, I would get up and go and do something, fold laundry, put it on a cookie sheet, put it in the oven. It was no sense to it. There was no reason, but it was an automatic behavior.
And you would wake up
And
in the morning, and it's a guessing game of what you did because you have no memory. Is
oh,
that correct?
I remember, several things that were funny. One of them, which was disappointing but funny, was every night my kids and my wife they make their lunches for the next day, and I guess one day when I went to bed, I ate their lunches, all three of them, and so the next morning my wife was, looking at me like, with your hand stuck in a cookie jar, and I
You
said,
were caught.
I didn't do it. And of course, I got the smile, and she had to make lunches again. But
Yes.
I don't remember eating them. I know I'm the guy that did because
Because-
nobody else,
Do you have a
was in
dog
the house that night.
to blame it on?
So, right. So I've gotten off of a couple of medications in the attempt to limit that, and,
Right.
and I've been pretty successful. My big problem is that the drugs tend to give you a hangover effect, and
Really?
it's already hard enough for us to get up out of bed physically. And then,
Yeah.
to then have some drug that's clouding or causing this fog or contributing to it, you look at which is better. It's maybe a catch-22,
It is. Which
And
is of the two evils do you want? It's
Right.
it's
Right.
there's no real easy, simplified way of trying to help us get restorative sleep,
Right.
which I have yet to accomplish. Keep the pain
Right.
down, and those are just two
Sure.
symptoms out of a myriad of several.
Right. I used to have a lot of trouble getting restful sleep, and I still do to a great extent. But when I would go to work, the only way that I could keep myself awake at times was to eat. When I ate, physically eating, I think maybe the sugars in the food, something like that, it gave me more energy. Plus, when I ate something, I felt full and satisfied. So
Right.
I did manage to gain, a lot of weight. I gained about 70 pounds over, a few years because I later attributed it to really bad sleep. But
Right.
when I,
But you lost it too.
when I switched to other medications, I've been able to lose weight. So some people
You
need to.
lost. I mean, we all saw it happen. I mean, you lost what, 70 pounds? I mean,
Yeah, I lost 70 pounds, and
you
I gained about 15 of it back. But that,
you
I
look
guess that's just
very
where I'm settled in at.
healthy. You don't look underweight or overweight. You look really good, and you've got a good weight on you
Thanks.
now. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, and it's tough too, I guess, if you look normal, and you
Whatever
wear
that
a
means,
smile
right.
so that you're friendly, then you don't look like the fibromyalgia
You're
person
not
in TV
sick.
commercials that that we all see.
Right. People don't understand. You look healthy, you talk healthy.
And I'm relatively young,
You
and
are.
people think of it as,
Mid
I think,
30s,
a
right?
yeah,
Mid 30s. It's like, okay. So just in case people are wondering what we consider young, yeah, it is. It's very young to be dealing with what you're
right.
dealing with.
But 10 years ago, somebody probably could have told me, hey, these conditions or what you're telling me look like, something that you want to, get under control. Because for years they said, oh, well, it's your thyroid, and then the next year, oh, geez, you need to take more testosterone. And then the next year was, oh, yeah, allergies, you need to take those medications that'll make you feel better. And so for a lot of people with fibro, it's hit and miss for a very long period of time.
It is.
And part of that is small, little, let's say, successes where they say, okay, you get your thyroid back where it needs to be.
Right.
Well, those individual things, they can be little wins or, hey, this is great. But the big picture, in my case, was getting a diagnosis of fibromyalgia so that I understood that, hey, this is not, as easy as, taking stuff for thyroid, right? Taking testosterone, taking these other medications without a bigger explanation. And when I got it, I did feel relieved after I researched it, and specifically after I came to the first Tampa Fibro Friends meeting, where I was amazed at how many people had the same problems I was experiencing.
Yeah.
And I was also scared from some of the stories that I heard that things would get worse.
I've gotten that
future.
feedback as well, that some people come
Right.
to their first meeting and they leave feeling scared and upset that it overwhelmed them when they thought, 'cause they're newly diagnosed and they're still functioning,
Right.
And
a good example is I had been working full-time, very competitive job, and I was slowly, eating away, I think, at my core strength. And I held on for 2 years where I was getting, verbal warnings about being late or not being as productive or maybe not addressing people in the right tone of voice and things that weren't terrible and that, you would normally get disciplined for. But in my case, I was still working when I went to the first few meetings, and I was thinking, well, I'll never get to the point where these folks are. I'm just lucky that I'm not as afflicted.
Right.
Well, I've been out of work now for 13 months, and I'm not going back, and I have gotten my disability determinations and all. And, it doesn't feel like a button or a pin on my chest saying, hey, I've solved this now, I'm not working, I got fibro. For me, it's like, how did I get to this point where 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I saw people who were out of work, and I said, geez, I'm never going to get to that point.
You've always
So
struck me as
it's
being very
progression.
organized, and if I recall, you used to share that you kind of had work where you had a system where you got your things done, but yet you didn't have to apply so much energy and stress to yourself, that you kind of found like a backdoor way of getting it all done faster and quicker, so that kept the management happy. Does that sound about right for a while?
Yeah, and then there was a change in there's one person new that they brought in had a different idea about things, and that does make it difficult. A new employee that is above you, a supervisor, they're now they don't know you, and when you're constantly 1 or 2 days a week late or something like that, they're not very tolerant of that, and that may have been part of what caused me to my work to get involved and say, geez, you're really too sick to work and you're not reliable and all. But in time up to that, though, I think my boss and maybe some other people, they were getting a little bit used to how I work. They say, oh, well, Michael's probably late this morning because he doesn't feel good. We'll just wait, an hour or so and move the meeting off. Okay. Well, then, like I said, with somebody new coming in that, wanted to do things differently, it did make it very difficult because now I was the guy, when I walked in the office, that would get the response, good afternoon, Michael. And it was 15 minutes later than what I was supposed to be there. Boy, I was so happy that I got there at that time. To me, 15 minutes, when you're supposed to start at 7:30, if I was there at 7:45, yes, I'm a supervisor, yes, I have certain responsibilities and meetings to go to, but I felt, hey, that is a good accomplishment. Well,
for
the
you
other,
I get
your
that.
work may not
They
agree.
don't.
They may say that's
No, they
unacceptable.
don't.
And in my case, that's what ended up happening. I wasn't able to effectively do my job, and when I had to look at it objectively, and I knew why they didn't like the work I was doing, and I did have to stop working, and I really wish I could work again. I know I can.
I'm
Maybe down
right
the
there
road I
with
will.
you. And if you were like me, it's a fine line of how far you can push work before you feel the possibility of getting fired. So it's like, I don't want to quit. I don't want to quit. I don't, till I finally, it, my sleep disorder is what threw me over the edge when I was starting to fall asleep going to and coming home from work. I was getting rides, and then I was doing trial prep, and if I had one file missing, it could have thrown a whole case. It could have just wasted and ruined it. So I had to
Right.
say, white flag. And I tried to give notice that I needed to go on disability, and the personnel department was very appreciative of that. When she called the disability company, they're like, if you're disabled, you don't give notice. You're disabled, you just stop working. Send her home. I'm like, how can we do this gracefully so everybody can have a good outcome? So
Right.
they walked me
Well,
right
part
out
of
the
the
door.
diagnosis for fibromyalgia has to do with this period of time that you've been experiencing these symptoms. So, when I'm hearing you, say that you were giving giving the warning and stuff like that, that's part of the diagnosis itself. Itself is that you've had it for some period of time. I don't know if it's 6 months or more or whatever
Right.
the gauge is, but so it sounds like what you're doing is exactly consistent with what happens with fibromyalgia. Long times it's late in getting diagnosed, and
Yeah.
this impacts in your family or in your work, and then in my case, when I'm home, I'm better because I can nap when I need to.
Right.
I don't have to drive if I'm feeling a little foggy or
Right.
if I'm feeling a little tired. I
And
can
especially through
change it or put it off till later.
high
And I'm
traffic
lucky where
times.
I'm sorry. What?
If you work a 9 to 5 job, most of our driving was during the high traffic volume times where it's stressful driving.
Yeah,
When
that's
I
another
worked.
consideration.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky because I have a good support group, and one of the days their grandmother does their school stuff for them, picks them up and all, and another day my wife does, and I usually have 3 days that I do it, unless their aunt picks them up or something. So I'm fortunate again that I can have this flexibility, so that I can try to rest and relax, take my medications, order my medications,
Right.
make sure I'm going to the right doctor offices. And, there's oftentimes paperwork people have to do for Social Security or for their long-term disability, for their work or their pension, or even, access to funds to be able to pay for an attorney.
Right.
In my case, I've, now dipping into my IRAs, and
That's
I have
scary
had
to
to have
do.
doctors sign off that I was, disabled, needed the money for X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Medication, medical procedures, attorney fees.
Yeah.
Again, 2 years ago or 3 years ago when I went to the group and heard people's stories, I never would have believed somebody said I'd be out of work for a year and I will have spent my savings and I'd be dipping into my retirement.
And
Would never have believed it, and I don't want to scare people that that's what happens, but I think that's what you were talking about, where sometimes people will tell a story like that, and the first timer will be like, holy smokes, I'm not subscribing to this,
right.
But
They don't want to buy into
you
it.
have fibro or you
But
or you have chronic fatigue.
I'd like to make an observation. If anyone listening can hear, you're very optimistic, even though you were at a place when you were diagnosed and you saw others. And I now have two categories. I call the functioning fibros and then the non-functioning fibros. And I put
Yeah.
myself in the non-functioning category because I cannot run a household and keep a job and do all that. But there are some that are functioning and have had it for years and years. But you have a great attitude. You're sharing what I'm really lucky in that now I can do A, B, and C. And attitude is, I say, one of the most important parts of if you are diagnosed with a chronic illness, especially fibromyalgia, your attitude is going to drive you. Your attitude's going to take you. If it's negative, it's probably going to bring you down. And if you have, like you're
Right.
showing, a positive attitude and seeing that there's good in this, like you're spending more time with your kids and you're taking
Right.
care of your body and your health, and it is what it is. You know, you're doing what you can to make
Hmm.
it better, but you understand they're at this place and time, there are limitations, and you're accepting that. And that
Right,
sometimes
and
people
I
take
think
a long time to
in my
do.
case, like I said before, I do have a pretty good support system, and my wife is
You didn't early
stubborn
on,
in a good
if I
way.
recall.
Yeah,
I mean,
huh?
just in general. I know it took
Oh
some
yeah,
time
yeah.
to get it all
See,
adjusted.
right, I'm optimistic for most things in life, like money or activities or
Uh-huh.
even sitting down to watch a TV show, because my wife is very uh, goal oriented or something. She's not going to let me get behind and order my
That's
prescriptions. She knows if I
yes.
say that I'm having trouble with it, she's got to help me to
That's
help myself. You know what
really
I mean? And she's
wonderful.
so darn, she's not going to let me fail. She's
Nope,
going to help
you're a
every way she
team.
can, and
You got a
I
great
have to
wife
try,
there.
and she's right there with me, so it makes it easier. I
Yes.
just don't think many people with fibro have that because they've already burned a lot of bridges. They've had
Sometimes,
years of being unproductive, and a lot of times it doesn't work well with relationships. In my case, my wife is just not going to allow me to do nothing, to feel sad about something. She's there, the cheerleader part of it, and she's also there to to take the load when I
yes.
can't, which is a lot of things I used to do. I just can't.
And how does she handle coping with her side, having a husband that needs extra help and
Well,
also keeping an eye on the whole household and working?
I can give you an example. Is that like we live in Florida, and many of us have small to medium-sized lawns, but we have all this rain now.
Oh, yes,
We've
we
had for a
do.
few months every day, and the grass grows and grows. And for a long time, I would take me a couple hours to mow the lawn because I have a fence, so I have a lot of weed whacking to do, and
Oh,
I have a lot
man.
of the mower. And I had so then I hired a company to do it. That
Right.
was the my wife said, "You can't take this many hours to do it because then you're too tired, and we see less of you on a Saturday morning.
It wasn't
Let's
worth
pay
it.
the $100 for the guy to do it and trim the trees and all that every month."
Right.
So that sense was good. Hey, that's how you balance something.
That's right.
Well, when it's now too expensive to hire a lawn company, I
Uh-huh.
now have to split up the lawn usually on 4 different days. I make sure
I
the front
see.
lawn looks good so that I don't get in trouble from the homeowners association,
I
and then I'll do
understand
the
that.
sides and inside my fence and do weed whacking either in the evening. Some of the stuff I actually do when it's raining out because it cools me down and I
Yes.
feel, more like okay, I'm being productive at a time when, let's say, it's raining and other people wouldn't be. But for me,
Right.
that is generally a good time because I won't sweat as much, or I'll be cooled down by the rain. I don't want to get struck by thunder and lightning, but for me, that's the time when I operate best, is when there's not bright sunlight on me, and it's not so hot like it is in the middle of the day here. So I
Yeah,
try to make
it's
it work.
I
I don't want to mow the lawn. It makes me tired. My back hurts from holding the weed whacker up, but I don't have the money to pay someone else to do it,
well,
and I'm
won't
too
be too
proud
many
to
more
ask
years. Your
the
son will
neighbor's
help
kids
you.
to do it.
Yeah, and so it's a give and take. Now, you may
Yeah.
not believe this. We've almost burned up an hour here, and I feel like
Oh,
we could go on and on. There's so much, but I just want to say, you I do know you through our support group, and you have been a totem pole, and the way I see you in there. You're our rock. You're very reliable. You're so helpful, and you have such good research and information that you always bring in, and you have been such an asset for all of us ladies there. We have other men come through, but you're the one that has stuck in there and stayed with the evolution of the group. And I just
right.
want to,
And last week, or yesterday, I went to the meeting, and there was a new gentleman that was there, and that was actually comforting. for me, but when I showed up, there was, a big laugh. They said, "All right,
Yay.
we got the other guy with us now." So that's good. And to feel part of a group, you know what I mean, and to hear, from you, the organizer, that you feel like, I play a role, and I really appreciate, because
yes.
that's something that I'm doing. If, say, my insurance company's like, "What are you doing now that you're not working?"
You are
well, I'm not volunteering for 40 hours a week at the school. You know what I mean?
Right. But
I may go to a support group meeting like this, and I may post something on the website, or I may, photocopy an article, or to bring to a meeting. Maybe it's carpooling is the task, for that day,
amazing.
so that more than one
and
person
you show up with
can
a
get
cooler
there.
of water.
It just all depends on.
Yep.
It all depends on what you can do that day, what you can provide.
Exactly.
Not overextending yourself so that you're setting yourself up for failure.
Well, I did that. That's why I wasn't there yesterday.
The independent ones.
I spent the whole day at the disability fair and the night before, which was amazing. I wish I had time to plug it, but I will share with the group all this incredible information that I did get to pick up on that. But it looks like I'm getting it's time to wind down to our closing music. And I
want to thank you for letting me share. I feel good every time I'm able to, and I hope that somebody will either think of, something, oh, hey, well, that's interesting, and maybe they can help themselves. Maybe someone will call you next week and say, I got this great idea for Michael who called last week. It might work for him.
You know what? And also, if you'd be interested in being a speaker again on the show, I would love it, because I think, I have more questions to ask you, like, being a man and having the responsibilities of, what's expected out of you by our society. And
sure.
Then, there's a whole other component. Well, that would be great. We'll look at our calendars, and next time when Jessie's back on the show, she's the one who's really out there rallying for medical marijuana to be legalized and getting it on the ballots. But she's talking
I think it's the greatest thing, but I can't tell anybody without getting an odd look. So it's good that it's being talked about in this format, so people can find out about it, instead of me. I'm not telling anybody. I drop the kids off to school in the morning. If someone said, "Hey, you on any medication?" and I said medical marijuana, that wouldn't go over too good.
No. Some things are best shared in a private support group, and in this kind of modality as well. And I'd love to.
All right. Well, again, thanks for letting me be on the show today.
And next time,
I
if you
will
want,
be on it again.
You can come here and sit next to me, because they can see me on the and it's healthinforadio.com if you want to go watch the show, and then just put Fibro Friends should be right down on the list. And since our show will be over, you'll go to past shows, and all of my shows are right there, and you can listen to yourself. How fun will that be? Thanks
Super. That way I can correct
much.
anything I said wrong next week.
You did an excellent job, and I'm just so grateful to have you as part of my group and in my world. I feel very blessed, and you and your family are just a delightful group, and thank you for all your great information. And I think it's time to say goodnight, and I will see you at the next meeting, and thank you for all your words of wisdom.
All right. Thank you very much again. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Remember, fibromyalgia can strike any person at any age. If you feel that you may be suffering from fibromyalgia, please contact your medical provider as soon as possible for proper diagnosis and a treatment plan that works for you. We are not a replacement for professional medical advice, but we are your Fibro Friends for advocacy and education and support. We encourage you to share via email, Facebook, or Twitter through a link from any of our shows that can be found on our website at fibrofriendsradioshow.com and on Facebook at Fibro Friends Radio Show. With your doctors, support system of friends and family, and your fellow Fibro friends. Remember, laughter is still the best medicine, so share the Fibro funny today and keep a smile on your face and in your heart. So pass this Fibro Friends smiling, gentle hug full of love to someone in pain today, because it's always the love that heals.